About 7 minutes before we started the Big 12 squad, I got a phone call from an insider at a national network. The Protect College Sports Act is about to pass, and Ohio State's $80 million roster is now $48 million. This creates chaos, especially for the Big 12. Welcome to the Dose Grande squad.
You're talking ball with the Big 12 squad. From Oklahoma State to Utah, from Kansas State to BYU, from Houston to Texas Tech, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming Big 12 weekend. Buckle up, it's the Big 12 squad, and we have a seat for you. No hurt feelings and thin skin allowed. Squad up, you're part of the Big 12 squad.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to the Dose Grande squad. Drake Toll with you from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. There's Cody Stovall, Locked On Oklahoma State, Philip Mulford, Locked On Sun Devils, Jake Hatch, Locked On Cougars, and wait a second.
Hey, there he
Mark
is.
Rainsworth of Locked On Cougs, talking all things Houston. Thank you for making our shows your first listen every single day. Today we'll talk 5 and 5. Now the class of 2022, who was snubbed from playing 5 seasons in 5 years, wants to come back, and a judge just granted them the your favorite player from last year, who's not in the NFL, might play college football for your team in 4 weeks. That sounds crazy, and it is. On top of that, the Protect College Sports Act. What is it? Why should we care? And how does it regulate LSU, Ohio State, Auburn, and regress NIL back to the mean? We'll cover all of it. If you hit subscribe, we get to keep our jobs. 7 minutes ago, I got a phone call that the Protect College Sports Act is about to go through. This is going to happen. And what it will do, I think the most important piece of this, not only does it give clear standards for the transfer portal, you can play 5 years, 5 seasons in 5 years. You also can only transfer one time without penalty. Oh, by the way, there's a $48.8 million NIL clause in here. You're effectively limited to $50 million as a university in NIL. This is spectacular for what we're building. And that $50 million on top of NIL deals over $600 have to be public. We now have to make them public for whatever your NIL deal is. Everyone knows you are actually giving your name, image, and likeness to a business. No more fraudulent, I'm an NIL guy for Goldman Sachs. What do you do for Goldman Sachs? The thing. Nope. Now it's above board and everybody can see it. This is great for Big 12 schools. We talked about Houston last week that needs some help in the financial category.
The real question is, which SEC school is going to be the ones that get caught first, still doing the backdoor money bags? Because you already alluded to it. If there's a constraint at $50 million and you've got some teams that can spend more, they're going to spend more money, Drake. This isn't going to stop anything. So I'm excited to see if there's going to be any legal ramifications when that does happen.
Well, so my question on that, Cody's point, is that, or is the entire Big 12 committed to spending that much money? Can they spend that much money? Because that's the thing about this. There are multiple G6 athletic departments that will never approximate $50 million in their annual budgets alone. Where are they going to allot another $50 million for a roster? I got full faith that the vast majority of the Big 12 is going to attempt to go to that limit, but how many changes are going to come as a result of that? That's the thing about this. You've already seen Iowa State dump sports because they know that they have to invest in football and men's basketball. How many more of these athletic departments are going to have to cut money?
Well, you got to remember. Do we have?
I was going to say, I feel like I think of the 5 of us here, I guess Drake has more than just Baylor in his back pocket. We probably have the smallest budget here, right? And I think the interesting thing to me is how a little bit of success can invigorate some things.
The smallest budget? We have Jake Hatch, the BYU guy here. Oh. Okay. I thought you were saying we 5 represent the smallest budgets in the Big 12.
I was saying of the 5 of us, I think of the 5 of us.
Okay.
So I'm the idiot. I see now.
Here you go.
Not anymore. Houston, there's a report from NILstandard.com saying that Houston spent $26 million on this year's roster. Mm-hmm. Are you saying that's not true?
They have a 5th-year quarterback and a 5-star freshman. I think what I'm looking at actually is how once you tell a group of donors, hey, this is the baseline we've got to get to because it's what everyone's doing, and we have a proven track record. Like Willie has shown success. Sampson obviously has done his thing. I'm not saying we're going to, break the bank in a way that beats traditional powers, but money does come in a little faster. And while I have my skepticism about like the brown paper bag money and whatever, I do think that there are schools that are more likely to get caught doing that. I think the brown paper bag money is easier to do in the middle of nowhere than it is in like a bigger city. So like Columbus, Ohio might be harder to do brown paper bag money than middle of nowhere, Alabama or whatever. Right? I think those things do shift around some too.
And the other question, it's $48.6 million for the entire. I don't know if they still have the women's sports carve out, but at one point they did.
Part of it. Yeah, there's $5 million in women's sports. It's going to be allotted if you want to go to that max. Yes.
But the point is it's 48.6 for all sports. Mm-hmm. How do you, as an athletic department, say we're going to go fund basketball, we're going to go fund football? Because again, the two money sports here. How do you start to have those conversations about, actually, basketball is going to suck this year because we want our football team to be 10% better? How do you start to have those conversations? Because this is just a lump sum. This is not a $30 million can go to football and $10 million can go to basketball and whatever. Like, how as a university do you start to make those decisions?
Well, do you think they already had them? And I don't mean that to be like that might have sounded more like a jerk than I meant it to, but like I feel like those conversations have happened for 10 years now.
And going back to what sorry, were you done, Parker? My bad.
The sports have grown, the dollars were stupid high. I mean, the competition is the competition. It's been happening for a long time now, I feel like.
Yeah, Cody,
I think it's going to come down to return on investment. Right. I think for all of us, all of us could come up with 50 million for a couple seasons. But if you go 4-8 after spending that kind of money, your donors aren't going to want to do it again. So I think every school in the Big 12 has the capability. Like, look at Houston. 3 years ago, what'd y'all spend? Like 2.7, 2.8 mil, something like that. And now you're spending 26 million. That is proof that there's people in this league that want to be more competitive. But I just think the Big 12 is the type of place that you need ROI. If you get it, if you dump 50 million and you win 10 games 2 years in a row, you're probably going to keep getting it. You're going to find it. You're going to inspire donors to keep doing more. But if you have back-to-back 4-win seasons after dumping 48 million, I don't think you can do it again. Maybe a lot of SEC schools can, but I don't think very many of the Big 12 can.
Here's the problem with this, though. Unlike in the past, it's like, people donate to football, donate to basketball. If you're at cap, which we're assuming everyone's going to be at cap, I, as a donor, want to give $5 million to football. I'm actively taking $5 million away from basketball. Right? That's how the calculus changed. Because if we are at a cap, if I as a donor add to something else, like I'm actively hurting my other program.
If you're intending on only giving it directly to the players, you can spend you can put $5 million into the football facility.
Well, you can,
give yourself,
but
and then because you have a cap sport, and while I'm against salary caps is a bigger like macro thing, like you have a salary cap sport. Well, then 5-star quarterback is going to get roughly the same amount of money in most places. But if you have the nice facility, this is back to old recruiting theoretically, right? Like I don't think it has to limit how much people give. It just limits how much people can give directly to the players. You can go buy a new facility. If Phil Mulford has $50 billion, he can go buy a new football field and weight facility and Jumbotron and put his name on all three. There's nothing stopping you from doing that at all.
Well, and guys, let's face it. Football is the front porch of a university. That's something Mike Gundy always had said. If I were a billionaire, if I could give my money to
not the only thing he said
to guarantee one national title, I would give it to baseball. However, if your football program's not good, then you're not going to inspire people to come to your campus. When your football team's good, you see that a lot of places, I'm sure Houston is a very good evidentiary proof candidate here. I would imagine that your enrollment and everything has gone up since Willie Fritz has turned that football program into a successful brand in the Big 12. So if your football team's good, every other sport has more capability to financially be good. But if you're spending tons in basketball and baseball, but your football team's complete ass cheeks, it's not going to matter.
Let's go there next. Did we just kill baseball? Because I'm not giving them a dime. It's the Dos Grande squad. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Look, Game Time's exactly where I go because there are more live events now than ever that are worth seeing. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's actually getting the tickets between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, surprise fees. Buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. The app is built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive savings opportunities to help you get to the events that you want without the usual hassle. My biggest pet peeve: you think you found a great deal, get all the way to checkout, and then bam, final price has $200 extra in what is it? Convenience fee? No, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event, and that's Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app and do it today with our friends at Game Time. So we know that the Protect College Sports Act, there'll be a clause in here for $5 million for women's sports. So that'll be divvied out on the women's side. There are college baseball programs who are paying guys $250,000, $300,000 to play college baseball. That's a lot of money, by the way. Just want to
hold on. You guys pay your baseball players? That's the thing?
Honor code violation at BYU if you pay baseball players. That's a lot of money. Now, if I have a pool of $43 million for men's sports here, I'm using all $43 million for the only two sports that make me money, football and men's basketball. Then the other $5 million go to the women's sports, as is the clause in the Protect College Sports Act. Why would I ever give it to baseball? Ever?
I couldn't come up with it, but there was some joke about BYU and the honor code and playing with sticks and balls, and I couldn't put it together quite quick enough. So this again, though, to me goes back to old school. Okay, back to old school recruiting, though, because again, y'all, I'm not the biggest baseball guy, but wasn't the number 11.7, and like they were already getting 11.7 divvied up across 25 guys, and like that was kind of a much smaller scale, obviously, compared to hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. But it was always the sport getting much, much less. It kind of led to a fairly affluent athlete having, like, you had to be able to pay for college basically to play it. Like, that's always been a little bit different. It just feels like it's back to that to me. Am I wrong in thinking it feels like the old school?
I mean, you can go spend $5 million on a quarterback that's not going to see a single snap of football, or you can buy an entire baseball team. Right, Landon Harrison was one of the best. I forget what the NIL number was, but it was in the hundreds of thousands. It was literally the best player, the second best player in all of college baseball last year, and his NIL number was under $1 million. It was like $200,000 or something. It was not a lot of money. Multiply that by 25 guys. It's a drop in the bucket compared to playing for an extra quarterback.
So, but Philip, to your point, there are two BYU baseball alumni who I hear from regularly. Like, Jake, why does BYU not want to invest in baseball? I'm like, well, simply put, there's no juice. Like that's the thing about this. It does not garner the eyeballs, the attention that football, men's basketball, and even some of the other Olympic sports at BYU garner. And that's why it's not gotten the investment. I know that it's got an incredible backdrop. Miller Park is an incredible facility, but the juice is not worth the squeeze, at least from my vantage point, to invest in baseball. Because I'm with Drake. If you got $43 million you're going to offer me, I'm probably going to spend 35 of it on my football program, the rest of it on men's basketball, and then carve out the $5 million for women's sports. That's where it's probably going.
I have a question for the Masters.
Hurts my heart, Drake. Hurts my heart.
My question would be, if you are a baseball player right now at Arizona and you're making $100,000. Oh, hey, big guy. By the way, we now have $0 for baseball. Like, we're about to go from football players making $9 million or $7 million to then making 1 or 2, and baseball players to making almost 0.
Well, and that's the thing. I think it's an institutional deal because Philip, Arizona State baseball has got a great legacy. Cody, I know that you love your college baseball.
But so what? You still won't pay them, right?
So we're schools that are going to be more inclined to spend money.
Yeah, we got donors that are going to put money into the
carve out a little bit
NIL fund.
Yeah.
But I would also
the whole department caps at 48.3, right? So why would you waste money from football NIL on paying a second baseman?
I mean, that also assumes that every school in the Big 12 is going to get up to 48.8 next year.
That's true.
Right.
I would
Texas
hope,
Tech
well,
will.
the hope would be
Obviously,
Arizona State
some of the
will.
other
I think
BYU
Arizona
probably
State
will.
And yeah.
I don't know that Arizona State will.
I think
don't
there's
know that
going
we
to
can
be
get to that. I mean, we're at like 20 something. I don't know what our football roster is, but I mean, I know we're not at 48.8.
Y'all are like 21.9 or something like that. Yeah. But Drake, this hurts my heart. I'm a baseball dude, coached baseball for well over a decade. I follow baseball religiously, but look at Texas Tech, right? That's the model of the school in the Big 12 that's spending bukus of dollar bills, right?
Yeah.
They have one of the best softball teams in America, and they paid for it. But their baseball team, they don't pay for anybody on their baseball roster anymore. And this is, I'm sure Level would talk about this fairly openly as well. Yeah. There's not a lot of donors that want to help Texas Tech baseball because it's a lot cheaper to build a super roster in softball. You can build a super roster in softball for $2 million. It's really hard to do that in baseball, and you have more numbers, right? You have 34 dudes on a roster. So it is sad to see that baseball does seem to be the sport that's probably going to get shoved in the closet the most. But as Philip alluded to, I think there's going to be some schools like Arizona State, Oklahoma State, TCU that are still rather heavily invested in baseball. I think West Virginia right now is going to be very heavily invested in baseball for at least the next 4 or 5 years. But there's going to be teams like Texas Tech that just realize that it's not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, I got two things. I think one, as Drake pointed out too, having to give $5 million to women's sports, there will be some that pick women's basketball, some that pick volleyball, some that pick softball, and you just kind of dump it all in, and then suddenly you're one of the best in the country at that, right? I think that's a very clear-cut path to a softball title too. But second, we're talking about baseball. It's been 30 years since the Southwest Conference existed, but like Houston Golf won 8 national championships, right? In the short window it was in the Southwest Conference, right? And the Houston track team has a multitude of Olympians every year. Carl Lewis is the head coach. I mean, those sports are also getting squeezed here in a way that isn't even third on the docket for us. Were they talking?
And were they even getting NIL money? Like, was the track team getting NIL money?
So the international folks actually were getting sponsorships at home as part of their Olympic deals, which is an interesting thing that is not really clear here. If those folks are, for all intents and purposes, represent our country in the Olympics in 2024, can they get different cat? That's a little bit different to me. Golf is more of a school sport, but the Olympics thing with track is unique.
And that's the thing about this. So BYU, Diljit Taylor, who coaches the women's track as well as the women's cross country programs, she has now got a Nike team. Nike sponsors an elite track team that practices at BYU's facilities, which is helping some of these athletes. I think, I don't want to say circumvent it, but it's allowing them to get money to allow them.
You don't want to say circumvent, but
that's not anymore.
I caught that. I don't want to say circumvent.
Okay, so as of 7 minutes before the show,
sure. That will have to change. Yeah.
It's in the bill now. That kind of apparel, extra ways to funnel money in has been nixed in the current draft of the PCSA.
So that will change, obviously, because Diljit Taylor is built. Nike legitimately sponsors a team that practices in Provo, Utah year round before they go out to all these national events. And to Parker's point, track and field at BYU's got a very strong tradition, much like Houston has got it. But that's the problem, is how much of a squeeze is it going to get, even more than it's already been getting because of this? Because everybody's going to invest heavily in the 2 revenue generating sports. The other sports fill the squeeze as a result.
Yep. When we come back, let's get to this, the 5-and-5 rule as well, because this is the most pertinent now. Let's say the Save College Sports Act, Protect College Sports Act, last second fumbles and we can't get to it. And something falls through. It's still very possible as of the time of recording. One thing we do know, though, is this 5-and-5 thing is real, and there are kids from the one individual class of a whole high school graduating class forgotten in time. It's the Dos Grande squad. Okay, 5-and-5. You have 5 years, five seasons. You have 5 years to play 5 seasons of eligibility. Fine rule. I like it. There's an addendum in there for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, those who go on missions. I think they did a pretty good job with this. 2021 kids, guys who graduated high school, gals who graduated high school in 21. They had still a COVID year holdover. A lot of them got 5 years of college athletics. All right, fine. 2023, you're a part of the 5-and-5 rule. You're going to get your 5 years of college athletics. The class of 2022 got 4 years, got to the end of that 4 years, and we said, hey, nice job. Thanks a lot. See you later. until this week, when a judge ruled and said, that's unfair. Let's allow them the 5-5 rule as well. Now, all of a sudden, in the middle of August, a bunch of athletes who graduated in December or May have an opportunity to return to college sports with plenty of stipulations, but they can return and play for your favorite team. So start listing off your favorite players from last year that graduated, because they might just be right back in your jersey. This is chaotic.
Here's the worst part about this, right? Originally, it looked like there was going to be a transfer portal and there was going to be an injunction on roster caps and all of these things. Arizona State starts our fall practice, our camp in 2 days. I'm sure the rest of y'all are in a similar situation.
Well, yeah, by the time this airs,
fixed.
Yeah, by the time this airs, BYU will have already had their first day of practice.
Exactly. So CBS was saying about like 3 guys on every football team would be eligible, something like 2 to 3 guys, it varies. None of them can come. Arizona State dismissed a guy from our roster 4 hours before this came down, and we'd already filled the slot with someone else. Wow. We would have loved to take in a guy, but there's 105 slots on a roster. Mm-hmm. And because this injunction, I guess, is trying to steer clear of a different house settlement, these football players are not going to get to play unless there is some other national injunction on top of this.
The timing of it's awful for football, and that's very clear. I think the other thing that's interesting is Houston's actually presently, because of grandfathered old eligibility things, up to like 116. And it didn't take me long to find out, like, there's a lot of Power 4 teams across the country that are actually operating
like 108.
already over the 105 limit because they got grandfathered in from old folk. You had to apply for that anyway. And so suddenly, folks that didn't have good enough of advice to enter the portal at the end of their eligibility anyways, which kind of felt like a weird thing the last 2 or 3 years you've seen kids do. It clearly was the best advice you could give, though, because you had to have entered the portal once upon a time. Again, at the time of recording, I guess another injunction could happen, right? Or else you're stuck only returning to your old school anyway. And those schools had to build whole rosters for the practices that started this week, right? It's a whole bunch of madness. I'm more interested to see how this plays out in basketball, where really, like, there is time before the school year semester starts for kids to transfer and enroll theoretically. And if a kid transfers as any other average Joe student and transferred and is there by class in September, it's hard to figure out a legal reason that kid couldn't play a winter sport, right? The 5-5 happening, I had Sam Rowrick on, who was like one of the guys breaking this out on Locked On Cougs, and he was very quick to point out, like, that's about as bad a timing as football could have had. Yeah. Right. Like, in the season, it clearly can't do anything. A month ago, we figure it out. Like, as it's starting, it's a haves and have-nots thing in the biggest kind of way.
Well, and I'd say I'm slightly envious of all of you guys, because for this to work, because of the timing, I think the only way you can come back is if you have a ready-made staff and roster. Oklahoma State has 80 new dudes, all new coaches, all new play calls, all new playbooks. So, like, if you were wanting to come back to be a part of Oklahoma State, nothing about it is comparable to last year. So you're going to be so far behind the learning curve, you're probably not going to even see the field.
But again, Cody, it doesn't matter, because unless you have open roster slots, which no one in college football, you can't just drop someone off scholarship without cause. There are no slots. Even if Miles Rouser, taking Arizona State example, went in the transfer portal when he finished his college football career, which he didn't, is he going to go to a group of 5 school? Like, there are the amount of roster slots on Power 4 teams right now for people to go play, vanishingly. I tried to do research. I didn't find anything. They just, it's with one hand saying, here you go, and with the other hand, actually, hey, you don't get to do what you want. It is wild that they're not also injuncting the roster cap on this one. It's ridiculous.
If you have a technical 5th year of eligibility, can you utilize it? Can you utilize it then in 2027?
It wouldn't be in 5. It wouldn't be in 5. It'd be 5 and 6.
Oh no.
I
think
royally screws the football players.
I know that Drake is working on that law degree hard amongst all the jobs that he does, but I think that would lead to another court case, right? When a kid says, "Hey, I was given a 5th year, but you didn't really give me a chance to use it because of when you passed it." That feels like another court case happening, right?
Wow, guys, we know G5 coaches are probably going to be pretty happy because it's exactly what we're talking about.
If the players were in the portal, which, I mean, how many football players are?
Oh, okay. Hold on. So what if they didn't enter the portal?
They
and then
can't
they
move.
exhausted their eligibility.
They're stuck.
They're stuck.
That was the
Now they're stuck in a place that they can't even get
right.
Yeah, we got
Unless
3
there's
guys I would
another
love to have
injunction.
back.
Yeah, there could be another injunction. Like there has to be some other injunction to rule something here. Otherwise, it's just a lame duck ruling. And that could be that you could enter the transfer portal, which at that point, insert example here of great player who graduated and is not in the NFL would probably be at UTSA next season. And by next season, I mean in 2 weeks, as opposed to being back at Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
There's real talk at Houston, though. They're going to fight to get their kicker back. Right, because he would be a candidate under the new ruling or whatever, and they were kind of having a kicker battle between the 2 guys that played behind him last year. It's like I guess we might go all out for a kicker because the kicker doesn't have to work with the offensive line and scheme quite the same way between now and game 1. We have some time to work on that one a little bit differently.
But Parker, here's the thing: BYU would love to have Will Ferrin back, who was their starting kicker the last 2 years. He was cut early on when he was an undrafted free agent of the NFL. He hasn't been picked up yet. If there's a possibility to re-add him, considering they have an open competition at kicker themselves, why wouldn't you consider that? But the problem, to Philip's point, BYU's filled out the roster. If I'm not mistaken, I think they're 115 or something like that because they've grandfathered in these walk-ons. They actually get a count against that until they graduate. So you just don't have an open roster slot. So yeah, and to Philip's also other point, you're going to drop somebody? How can you do that? How can you justify it? There has to be some other movement from this.
I sense an honor code violation happening is how I sense it.
Here's the second problem. If you were a coach,
he's not going to say circumventing.
If you are a coach saying unless there's a guy who's clearly a problem and you're just holding on to him because you don't get a better option. If you are drumming up a charge to drop some guy to bring your 5th-year senior back in, no matter how good that 5th-year senior is, what does that do to your locker room? What does that do to your recruiting when you're going to bring a guy in? You're like, we got a better option. Bye-bye.
It's probably the shady 18-year-old you just brought in who's got a Rolls Royce and none of the teammates like him. So you cut the shady 18-year-old, you bring back the 24-year-old team captain.
I think that's an interesting point, too, because I mentioned how Houston was the poorest of the 4 schools represented here. I do think all 4...
You used to be.
Stop paying. Used to be.
Rich.
Now we're...
Houston's rich.
Yeah, look at us. Change the quote, Jake. I think that
I got AI on it. Just give me a second.
Truthfully, I think that the 4 of us are also there. You go. All potentially going to have good football teams this year. I think these.
No way. No way.
What?
Oh no!
Yep, there we go.
Jake, you broke him.
That is.
I was going to say, guys, this is yet another reason why the players need some kind of players association for protection, because they would have some legality, I would imagine, to try to fix a lot of this. But I want to hear what Parker has to say. Parker or new guy Nick.
New guy Nick has been sign language actually for the audio audience. It's been great.
Okay, fair play.
I was going to say is that if you were to bring in a wide receiver all of a sudden. And you just told these kids that have worked out since January that you're our guys, you're kind of messing with some chemistry. All 4 of our teams, I think, on this screen right now are going to be pretty good, actually. Are you willing to mess with the mojo just for a case to get ruled in October that actually the kid can't play?
If his name's Boogie, I am.
Yeah, but everyone likes Boogie. You're not going to mess. Everyone likes Boogie.
Parker brings up a really good point, though. We saw what happened with Bedico in Alabama, where he got 5 games. Yeah. They brought him on, then he came off. If I find some way to drop some guy in my 2 deep, because you're not probably getting rid of your future, you're not getting rid of your starters. I drop someone on my 2 deep. I get this guy, and he plays 3 games. Oh no, sorry, the injunction is bad. There's a stay on the injunction. This guy can't play anymore. My cornerback room, my safety room, my line, whatever it is now suddenly incredibly thin because we didn't drop the 5th string guy who's prepping up. We dropped our 2 deep. Now he's gone. Yeah. What does that do to our program?
Yeah.
I think we have poked all of the holes in this and have realized that even the headline itself is just a farce. It doesn't help the kids that actually would want to come back and play college athletics. There needs to be some other addendum, some other injunction, something else. Please, government, get more involved, I say again.
Please. We got all the way through this, though, and on a Locked On Big 12 squad show where we talk about adding schools every other week. Drake wore a Boise State sweatshirt on screen the whole time, and no one asked what he heard while he was up there in Idaho.
I
He knows
got
something.
news. A source called me 7 minutes before the Dos Grande squad and said, "That's Cody Stovall, Jay Catch, Philip Mulford, Parker Ainsworth. Thank you for listening to our shows every day. And next week, I'll tell you exactly why I wore this Boise State hoodie. It's going to be good." It is Locked On Oklahoma State, Locked On Cougs, Locked On Cougars. Yeah, I know. And Philip Mulford of Locked On Sun Devils. We've been asking for years what's going on with those two. We'll find answers at some point. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making our shows your first listen every single day. The Dos Grande Squad.